is breaking news.
A worker at a store in New Orleans East opens fire on two armed robbery suspects, killing one, injuring another. Just minutes ago, deputies released a photo of the surviving suspect. They say Tiani Juarez faces 4 felony counts, including armed robbery and aggravated assault. Good evening, I'm John Snell.
And I'm Meg Gatto. The NOPD says the shooter does not face charges.
A worker in New Orleans East went from a gun in his face to a gun in his hand.
For our safety, protecting ourselves. That's why what has happened has just happened.
Sam's Meat Market manager Dia Ahmed says he wasn't there, but provided us the security footage. It shows a quiet Tuesday night until the two suspects walked in, guns drawn. He says they demanded cash and took items from the store.
They came in and money, 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 money. That's all they say.
The video shows a worker had his hands up until he reached for a weapon of his own. He fired several shots, hit both of the suspects, walked out of the frame, then shot the juvenile suspect 2 more times. The NOPD says EMS took him to the hospital where he died. The coroner hasn't released his identity. Officers arrested the second suspect who was injured, 18-year-old Tony Juarez, who now faces multiple charges, including armed robbery. The NOPD says the worker faces no charges. Ahmed says no workers in the store were hurt, but they were shaken.
They was really scared because that's why they use their guns. But we all carry guns, but we hope not to use it. But in this situation, we have to.
You know what the crazy thing is? Watching that video, the first thing I noticed wasn't the fact that he was shooting at 2 robbers. It was the fact that he was shooting one-handed. And let me tell you, shooting one-handed is not easy. But the funny thing about that is instinctively, I think most people will go to shoot one-handed in a self-defense situation without even realizing it. Now, when most people go to the gun range, they're usually out there with their perfect 2-handed grip, trying to get those tight little groups on their targets. But in real life, you don't always get that luxury. You might be holding something, fending off an attack, or in this case, reacting under extreme pressure. Even I'm not super comfortable shooting one-handed. And don't get me started on weak hand shooting. If you have to use your non-dominant hand, most of y'all can forget about it. At that point, you might as well just throw the gun and hope it hits the target, because I know the vast majority of y'all are not practicing shooting with your non-dominant hand. That's why I always say people need to practice one-handed shooting way more than they do two-handed shooting. It's tough, but it is critical. But now let's talk about the real gut punch here. One of the suspects was a teenager, a kid, and that's just heartbreaking. Here's the thing though, more and more we are seeing young people, or YNs as the phrase goes, they're out here acting like crash dummies. They're pulling guns on people without a second thought, not realizing that guns aren't magical shields. Just because you have one doesn't mean someone else doesn't. They didn't stop making guns when they made yours. And the tragic part, the kids aren't thinking beyond that moment. They're not considering the consequences. They're out here risking their lives for what? A few bucks? Some random items from a store? It sucks for the clerk too. Imagine defending your life only to realize the person you had to shoot was a kid. That kind of emotional weight is something no one should have to carry, but sometimes you're left with no choice. One thing I will say is the clerk handled himself like a pro. He kept his cool, he didn't panic, and he waited for the right moment. That is textbook situational awareness if you ask me. But let's address the elephant in the room, those extra shots.
Juvenile suspect 2 more times.
Some people are gonna ask, were they necessary? I mean, yeah? Depending on the situation. Because when someone's down, but still within reach of their weapon, there's still a potential threat. And in that moment, the clerk couldn't be too sure if that person was still a threat or not. And this is why it's important to know your state laws. If this had happened in California or New York, the clerk might be sitting in jail right now. Not because he did anything wrong, but because those places treat self-defense like a crime. In Louisiana, they seemingly respect the right to defend yourself. But even in gun-friendly states, you can't take that for granted. This is why I always say, if you carry a gun, you need to have legal protection. Not just physical protection, but legal protection. And that brings me to my sponsor for today. USCCA. They provide concealed carry insurance and training and resources so you're prepared, not just physically, but legally. If you ever find yourself in a situation like this clerk, the last thing you want is to be scrambling and scraping for a lawyer or worrying about how to pay for your defense. USCCA has all of that covered. And even if you don't go with USCCA, go with something versus nothing. So if you want to learn more about USCCA membership, I'm going to put a link in the description section for you to check it out. Now, this story is a harsh reminder of why we carry. It's not about being a hero or looking for trouble. It's about surviving. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think the clerk was justified? Would you have done anything differently? Let's talk about it. But also, let's talk about the fact that right now at shop.mrcolionnoir.com, we are having our annual Christmas sale where you get 15% off everything when you use the discount code Defend America. You can get things like this beautiful premium embroidered hoodie like I'm wearing right now with my Need Money for Pew Pew and the Need Money for Guns design. We have them in all our designs, all shirts, hats, drinkware. All of them and all of the designs are 15% off right now. Shop.mrcolionnoir when you use the code Defend America. Also, then there's the AKT1 Blackouts, my favorite in-ear wireless Bluetooth hearing protection. I love these things because I can listen to my music when I'm out on the range. And if I do need to take a phone call, I don't have to take my EarPro out of my ear. I can just take the call on my EarPro. And then not only that, I can still hear everything that's going on around me because it has pass-through hearing. But if the noise gets too loud and too dangerous for my ears, it clips it. See? So you get to actively protect your hearing while still going about your life or going about your range day without having to take the EarPro in, take it off, put it in, take it off. You know how it goes. And then there's the Flip Lock, which is also 15% off. The Flip Lock was created by a friend of mine who wanted it initially for schools and as a way to stop school shooters from getting into classrooms. But they also make a residential version. And recently I went out and I did a video where I shot the residential version and it actually held up against a 5.56 and it really honestly surprised me, if I'm just gonna be honest. So right now those are gonna be available on the store as well, 15% off when you use the code Defend America along with the EarPro and along with all of our other merch at shop.mrcolionnoir.com. So hit the link in the description section and take advantage of the sale before it's over, folks. One thing's for certain and two things are for sure. Politicians and tech giants don't want gun content to be recommended to you. And we're all fighting this culture war together. Now you can help do your part by liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel, but most importantly, sharing this video with at least one person. Together we can stop the suppression of our 2A rights. And don't forget to click the link in the description section of this video for the products that I mentioned in this video.